Alright. Alright, just a little streaming test here, just a little paint test. Let's see what we got here. I'm gonna whip palette out. Oh, 1 second. Can't forget water. Gotta remember the water. Alright. Not sure what color I want this guy to be. I've already laid down the bone on him. Let's see if I can see here. Not sure that'll focus right. There you go. I've already got the bone going. Bob Ross, I don't know, we'll see. Happy little skeletons? I don't know. Something like that maybe. Hope everybody's doing okay today. This is just a little test. I'm just seeing how this streaming will go. Not sure how well it'll go. Oh man, what was that? I don't have like any notifications or anything set up, so I don't even know what that was. Was that a subscription or a follow? Hoping that was a follow. Don't need anybody spending money. Let's see here. Hey, bud. Let's see here.
Dinner's almost ready.
Okay, bud. I don't even know what that was. Well, anyway, thank you for whatever that was. Whoever that was. Let's see here. Alright, well. Oh, cool. Thanks, Blake. Alright, thanks for the follow, buddy. Hope you're doing okay. Having a good day. Let's see here. Alright, so I think I want this cloth to be kind of purpley, at least the outside. So the question is what color do I want to use? Something a little, not too bright, but not too dark. Let's go with, I think this war colors would be too bright. Let me see here. Let's try this sunset purple. Got a set of scale color paints in and really starting to like them a lot. They're very matte, so they don't have like a high gloss or anything like that, which is great. Sometimes you want gloss, but I prefer matte most of the time. It's real rich purple right there. Alright, so let's see. Probably gonna have to dingy it up at some point, but right now I think we have a good enough base on there to show some shadows. So we're just gonna see what this looks like on top of this. Well, it's very, very vibrant. And it's not too bright, so I like that. The question is will that dry in a way where we see some good shadows? I think it will. This paint should be thin enough for that to work that way. Alright. This is just this is a skeleton from I do actually play with minis painter. So so there's a bunch of different games that I play, and a lot of them involve painting minis. This one is actually from a game called Rune Wars miniatures game. It's pretty much dead. They're not supporting it anymore. However, the minis themselves are perfect size for things like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. So it's actually a great way to get some really neat Dungeons and Dragons or any sort of D20 miniature for a fairly decent price, as they are they're kind of generally on sale now, or they don't it's not that expensive of a product anymore. So I like to buy their, because they're traditional fantasy miniatures, and they're, as you can see, so like if you compared this one to so like a Warhammer sized figure, like this guy right here. So if you look at the difference between the Warhammer base and so this, you see the grid marks here on the cutting board. You can see that this guy fits within the 1 inch 1x1 with his base, but the Warhammer figure doesn't. They're just a little too big. So I couldn't take this orc and use it as a traditional orc in a miniatures game of D&D. So I couldn't really dual purpose that. But with the Rune Wars miniatures, they're small enough to also be able to fit in the D&D style miniature as well. So just another way to get some fantasy style miniatures that are the right size. If you don't want to buy the ones that are the like they sell the unpainted D&D miniatures and the unpainted Pathfinder miniatures. Generally they're not very expensive, but generally you only get two for and they're of the same kind of class, so like two barbarian miniatures for around $4 to $5 depending. Some stores will put them on sale, but it all depends. But yes, long-winded. But to answer your question, most of the minis I paint, yes, I do play a particular game with them, whether it be Dungeons and Dragons or I'll repaint X-wing ships here and there sometimes. I've been lately, I have a very, very large Marvel Crisis Protocol backlog, so I've been trying to paint those up a good bit. It's slower going, but I like painting them. I like Marvel, so I like and I like the Crisis Protocol miniatures, and I really like the guys that make the game. I've actually met some of them. It's Atomic Mass Game Studios, and they make a good game. I played there. A lot of those guys were from Privateer Press, and they make a game. Privateer Press makes a game called War Machine and Hordes, and their newest game is Warcaster, I believe. And I played War Machine and Hordes for several years, and I still play it. It's one of my favorite games. It's really a really good game. But a lot of the guys at AMG came from Privateer Press, where they made War Machine and Hordes. So they have a good product in Marvel Crisis Protocol. Now I've only been able to play Crisis Protocol a couple times because pandemic and everything, whatnot. So, what's my favorite minigame? My favorite minigame, I mean, it's got to be hands down, will pretty much always be X-Wing. Now there's not a lot of fun times painting in X-Wing. You can repaint X-Wing ships, but most of them come pre-painted. Well, all of them come pre-painted. So it's a little more difficult to paint X-Wing ships, just because you have to get a good thin base coating on them, and then after the base coating you have to really kind of have a good vision as to what you want to do with it. Crisis Protocol minis are pretty great because you can look at the comics for source material and the movies for source material and kind of figure out what color schemes really you want, and if you want to vary it from what those color schemes kind of are or dictated previously. X-Wing ships, if you want to get creative with them, you kind of have to think of a theme or a color scheme and really work at it, because it's already pre-painted. It already has kind of this life as it is already. You're essentially painting over. It's like taking a car that you've had for years with a particular color already on it, and going, okay, what color do I want on this car? A lot of times you're so used to that car being a particular color, you're gonna be like, well, I just wanted the same color it was. That kind of thing. So, yes, I always prime my figures first. I've tried, so the D&D miniatures come quote unquote pre-primed. The ones from WizKids. So if you look at that guy right there, he's quote unquote pre-primed, but I still don't necessarily feel that this is always the best pre-prime. It's rather glossy and kind of gummy a little bit. So even those I'll pre-prime. I like to. So a lot of people will talk about zenithal priming, and I kind of do a variation of that. Most people they'll prime their minis with spray or an airbrush. I generally don't do that. Mostly I just brush it, actually brush priming for me is somewhat cathartic, as well as I don't really have the room or space for spraying and all that jazz. So but this guy's pseudo zenithal primed. This is Doc Ock, as you can see. Where what I'll do is I'll prime a thin coat of black, and then I'll take a gray, and almost like dry brushing, I'll dry brush over it once to get like a darker gray, if you can see the darker gray down here, and then I'll dry the brush out, and I'll wait for this to dry, and then I'll dry brush over it again, and you'll see like a lighter gray up here, and that kind of gives this multi-toned zenithal priming. And what that does is, if you can tell, it's real subtle. But if you can tell, like on this guy right here, in the creases you'll see darker purple, and on the edges you'll see lighter purple. It's a little bit harder to see if this thing would focus a little better. Maybe I can show it up here a little easier. No. But anyway, it's harder to tell, but it's a technique that I'm beginning to really like, where the same color on a darker crevice will show darker than the same color over a lighter corner, and that actually cuts your painting time down, makes your painting easier, and gives you that depth that you want on a mini, because that's really what we're going for, is the kind of the depth between the shadows and the difference between the shadows and the light, or an area where a light would hit a mini. So this one's a little difficult because it's hard to tell what's cloth and hard to tell what's armor in certain areas. So I think I'm just gonna have to wing it. So this is pretty much cloth, so I'll go there next. Hopefully I have this guy in the... It might be better if I zoom in some here. Oh, that's the wrong way. There we go. That's a little better, I guess. So why the wet palette rather than just applying the paint? So I do have a dry palette here that I'll use for like quick things, or if I'm dry brushing something. The wet palette, as you can see, like these paints have been on here for several days. So the wet palette, what that does is that keeps your paint wet over the course of several days, as long as you keep your wet palette itself moistened with water, and you can just put water down here in the reservoir. It's great for if you're working on a mini over several days or even a week, or maybe you're working on a set of minis, like a whole troop or something like that. The wet palette's great for keeping all that paint wet and usable over a period of time. I'm starting to really see the benefits of a wet palette. I usually I used to really not use it that much, but it's really starting to grow on me. Not necessarily that you have to use a wet palette, but it is helpful, or it can be helpful. Let's see here. The one, not really issue, but the one, I guess, annoyance I have with the Rune Wars minis is that it's hard to tell, but if you look underneath them, they put a great amount of detail on the front, back sides, and whatnot of the mini, but the bottom of the mini is very much just kind of like cut straight through, almost. It's weird to describe, but it's like they just kind of said, okay, well, we'll let that be kind of like a whatever the 3D print or sculpting is. We'll just kind of just cut through, and it doesn't like, I like the whole mini to look somewhat realistic, and that bottom part just doesn't look realistic. But I mean, who's necessarily going to be picking up the mini and looking at it from the bottom. I mean, probably not many people, but it's just an annoyance I have. I want the whole thing to look the right way. Weird like that. Is the audio coming through? Like, if anybody's watching, is the audio coming through good? Like, can you guys hear me well? Am I too loud? Am I not loud enough? Am I too calm in my voice and need to be more excitable? And are the camera angles good? Again, this is just like a quick little test. See if I can maybe do some of this. Crap, I got that on the wrong place. See if I can do this on a more regular basis. I think it'll help keep me on track for painting. I've got a lot of painting stuff that I want to do. And I think it could be fun. I don't know. At the very minimum, it'll keep me on target for my goals, which is to get a lot of this backlog painting done. All right, let's see here. Get a little bit of, yeah, okay. I'm guessing no response means that everything is okay for now. Check 1, 2, I guess. Don't have any music or anything like that, so apologies on that. But maybe I'll get something set up like royalty-free stuff or whatever. We'll see. We'll see. Awesome, thank you. Okay, so I got the purple down. Can't tell if this is cloth down here. Might be. We could do purple there, but not sure yet. Alright, well, okay, well, hopefully this was a good little test. We got some purple on this guy. Ooh, there we are. Yep, got some good purple on him. He's got some good shadows going. Alright, well, thanks for anybody who joined for this quick little test. I didn't really expect anybody really to show up. I might jump on later and go some more at it. If anybody wants to join then that's great. But I'll end the test for now, and we'll see if I can keep working on making this a more formal stream, if you will. All right, thanks everybody.